Dan Wetzel covers college sports and Yahoo Sports columnist, podcast host as well. He was at the Michigan and Ohio State game. What was that atmosphere like in, say, the latter part of the second half, Dan?
Well, I think, unfortunately, we've all been to a wake, funeral, only without the people trying to say, let's have a celebration of life and talk your way through that. Yeah, it was amazing. Somewhere in the middle of that third quarter, and man, you just don't see this at Ohio State. There was that dread of the inevitable defeat. Like, oh no, they're doing it again to us. And that just is such a unusual spot. That's what Ohio State does to everybody else. And I think a couple of those decisions by Ryan Day to not go for it on fourth down. Michigan had that 8-minute drive that bridged the third and fourth quarter where they just did whatever they wanted. It was slow and methodical, and it wiped out the game. And then you just had the knockout punches late by Donovan Edwards, and it was probably half empty by the end of the game. Just if you'd given me that option, it would have been long odds. But it was a tough day in Columbus, no question.
And it was only a couple of years ago where Jim Harbaugh's taken a pay cut, just trying to hold on for dear life now, and now he's up for Coach of the Year.
Yeah, I don't want to encourage bosses giving pay cuts, but it was certainly an effective manner on Harbaugh. He got a pay cut, and he's 24-2 since, and he's probably going to the playoff no matter what happens this weekend. But this isn't easy to do, to change a program like that. Now, he was winning, and there was a sort of a belief of, like, because he wasn't beating Ohio State, and twice they were really close games, but because he hadn't beaten Ohio State, there was sort of this belief like he's failing. He was getting compared to Scott Frost at Nebraska. They were winning 9-10 games a year. They were doing well. They just weren't beating Ohio State. But what has happened in these last 2 years, the identity they found, the buy-in on this team, you talk to these players, it's amazing how fired up they are about Michigan and the team. I mean, it is like Michigan, the fantasy text. I mean, they just love it. And Harbaugh has got the program that he always wanted to build, and he came back to do this. He came back to settle family business for the Wolverines and start beating Michigan and Michigan State and win Big Tens again. And he's got that. And now he says he isn't leaving after the Vikings didn't want him last year. He could be there for a while, and it'll be interesting to see what he goes from here. But he's got a heck of a team this year. I would still put Georgia as the favorite to win the national title, but it's a lot closer if those two match up than it was a year ago when it was like, yeah, I don't think this is going to end well.
We got the 12-team playoff format and got it fast-passed here to 2024. Why was the Rose Bowl the lone holdout?
You know, it goes back to the Rose Bowl's historic place in the sport, and they had their own contract with the college football playoff. And because of that, they were able all alone to veto expansion. I've been coming on the show a long time talking about playoff expansion, Dan. I've written a lot of stories, books. Nobody ever believed when I would say, yeah, it's getting held up because the Rose Bowl wants to have the sun set at the end of the third quarter of their game. And that's what's holding up $1 billion enterprise. And people go, no, not possible. I did not believe, when I started reporting on this, I did not believe it myself, but you end up as one of the obstacles. It's like, well, can we have the sun set at the start of the third quarter? No, has to set over the same game. And it is, I'll give it this, it is one heck of a sunset.
Yeah, it is.
It is one of the great sunsets in America. But this is $1 billion operation. And if you're the president of Mississippi State, you go, I don't really care. Okay, I want the money. And the president of Mississippi State said, get this thing done. And he was in charge, and they finally got it done. So the Rose Bowl has given up all the petty, ridiculous disagreements, the infighting, the politics. I mean, the stuff that held this up is amazing. And they still can't kick the bowl games. They still can't kick them out. Like, it's amazing. If you said to Roger Goodell, I think the AFC Championship game should be owned and operated by like the tourism board of San Antonio, and you should play it there every year, not in Kansas City and they get half the money. Like no one would go for this, but it's small steps, but this is a big step. They're going to be a real playoff. Next year will be the last of the 4-team, and then it's going to be really wild after that.
What's the downside?
I mean, those of us that love college football the most love college football for its inefficiencies, its ridiculousness. It's the whole thing, right? She will lose some. Ohio, we'll see. You don't even know if this is true, but there was a sense on Saturday at the Horseshoe that Michigan had ended Ohio State's season for all effect. Next year, or if there's a 12-team playoff, that is not the case. Now you're getting better seeding. You should have advantages of home field or a bye and some different things, but that's not the same as ending the sport. But that said, those games are rare, and quite honestly, we're not that I believe this should happen, but if USC loses on Friday night, Ohio State's back in anyway. So did it really end their season? So those magical moments where somebody ends a season in that, that one loss, but conversely, we're going to get so many great games, and there's so much more money. There's so much more interest, so many more teams that'll be involved in the season. We're going into a weekend here. This is the championship game weekend. None of the games may matter. By Friday night, the whole weekend could be over. Like, it's a weird way to run a sport where you're just like, oh, yeah, this doesn't matter.
We're going to get to revenue sharing at any point, or is that just called a different thing, NIL?
With the players?
Yeah.
I think we're a ways from that. You watch how they're kicking and screaming against NIL, but and it's a much bigger step if you make them employees. They don't want to do that. They were hoping for congressional, input or whatever. I don't know how they thought the United States Congress was going to solve their. When this is how bad the business shape it is with lack of leadership. When you're asking Congress to come run your business, I don't know too many businesses, industries saying, please help us, and not in subsidies, but come up with a rule. I think we're down the line. I think with the NIL, it's much fairer. Guys are making a lot of money. Those playoff games will be huge boons to players' bottom line. I covered the game in Columbus. So I happened to be in Ann Arbor on Sunday, and I went to the M-Den, their big store right in downtown Ann Arbor. And I watched 5 people buy Donovan Edwards' jersey in 12 minutes, right? Like, there's going to be a whole bunch of 10-year-olds wearing Donovan Edwards 7, and he's getting a cut of that now. In the past, so you win those big games, there is a financial reward. It feels fairer, all of that stuff. I don't know that there is, I think we're a ways away from the true sharing of revenue.
I wondered, though, and I don't know if schools got around this, that if I had your jersey number, but not your name on your jersey, and you could buy it.
But they didn't give the player any money.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah, they put their number on there.
Yeah. But nowadays, even if they don't put your name on the back, because
they can put your name on the back and you can get a cut.
But what if they don't have your name on the back of that jersey and you go into the bookstore?
Well, if I'm Donovan Edwards, I'm going down to the AD and saying, put my name on the back, or I'm transferring to Ohio State next year.
Whoa!
Come on. Listen, did you see me running 85 yards? I'm getting a cut. No school would do that, because that would be absolutely disastrous. So there's even stuff, Pell Grants and the all the different cost of living and stuff. You have college football players clearing tax-free $45,000 at the top level and going to school for free. So that's a $60,000, $65,000. Is it equal to pros? No. Patrick Mahomes making $50 million, but it's a big step in the right direction, and it's a different sport. So we'll see where that goes, but I don't see anything imminent about, hey, let's share the revenue. No one wants to share the revenue, and I don't know the players can organize well enough to do that. If they created a union, it'd be very hard to get a strike. They don't really have much power on this.
Have we run out of Heisman candidates?
I had a guy, I talked to him after the Ohio State game. They said, who else is there? Stroud's out. Corum didn't play well. So it was all about USC better play. They better play well out there. So I think it's a one-man race unless it's 5 picks on Friday night.
Great to talk to you as always. Thank you, Dan.
Appreciate it, Dan. Talk to you soon.
Dan Wetzel, Yahoo Sports columnist, podcast host.